What's going on, guys? Today we're talking preamps, in particular rack-mounted preamps. Do you remember those things called amplifiers? Back when I was your age, we used things called real amps. Okay, all jokes aside, just to clarify what we're talking about when we say a preamp. With a tube amplifier, we can divide the circuitry into two parts. We have a preamp and we have a power amp. Now, our guitar signal first goes through the preamp. This is what gives us our gain and gives us the tonal character of the amp. Then that signal passes into the power amp where it's amplified and pushed through the speaker. Some amp manufacturers actually sell their preamps, just the preamp, in a rack-mounted form. And so this allows you to be able to buy just a preamp, and then you could choose what power amp you want to use, and you can assemble a rig in a rack. So instead of having an amp, you have this rack unit. Just gives you more customizability, lets you kind of pick and choose, mix and match preamps and power amps, and you can kind of build the rig exactly how you want it. Judging by my choppy explanation, you can tell that I've never used a rack unit in my life. Until today, because today we are taking a look at the Synergy Amps SYN-2 dual module tube preamp. Now I know what you're thinking. What's so special about another rack-mounted preamp? Aren't there already hundreds of them on the market? Well, typically when you have a preamp, you get it from one manufacturer and you're limited to just that manufacturer's tone. And so what if you want the tone of a different manufacturer? Well, you gotta buy another preamp, you gotta swap it out, you gotta take the old one out, put the new one in. What if you wanna use them both together, like in a set? You want to be able to switch between them. Well, now you have to install the second preamp in another slot, and you got to figure out some way to connect them and switch between the channels. And what do you do with all that? Now, the smart people over at Synergy Amps have come up with an ingenious way to let you quickly and easily switch between the tones from different manufacturers in one unit. And they do it with this. This is a preamp module. Synergy's claim to fame is that they have these working relationships with other amp manufacturers. Each of their preamp modules represents the tone of a different amp manufacturer. In the Synergy SYN-2 rack unit lets you load 2 of these and gives you the option to be able to switch between them seamlessly on the fly. You can do it live in a set while you're recording, and it's effortless. Looking at the Synergy Amps website, you get modules from Bogner, Diesel, Engel, Friedman, Fryette, Metropolis, Morgan, Soldano, Vi, and that's all as of this video. And if the companies are actually putting their names on these modules, to me, that means that these preamps are gonna deliver. For outputs, you have stereo XLR with cab simulation. There is a button that you can push to bypass the cab sim. There are stereo 1/4-inch outs without cab sim, and there's even a stereo effects loop. So you can run effects after the preamp, but before the final outputs. So they give you a lot of options to be able to build upon this, to be able to integrate it into an existing rig, or to really just kind of use it as a standalone unit and just run direct. So this means that you can effectively replace an actual amp just with the SYN-2. But just like we talked about at the beginning of the video, this is just a preamp. And so you're gonna need some way to actually amplify and power the sound. And so you could just plug direct. You could go straight to the soundboard, or you could go to some powered PA speakers. Synergy recommends using something that's designed for guitar. So something like a Line 6 power cab could work well. You could even plug into an audio interface and you could record direct to your computer. And if you are using an amp that has an effects loop, there's this really interesting way that you can route the Synergy into the effects loop of a real amp, where the Synergy will then act as additional channels. However, it doesn't have any kind of built-in effects, doesn't even have reverb. And so you're on your own for that. So you could use your pedal board, you could use a rack multi-effect thing, whatever. These modules are fairly easy to swap out. There's just 2 thumb screws on the front. You just loosen those up, and then you kind of just pull on the thumb screws and you work the module out. They kind of look almost like an old school video game cartridge or something, which I think is super cool. It kind of has a little bit of nostalgia. And then to load in, you just do the reverse. I think most of the modules have 2 channels. If you plan on doing a lot of switching, I recommend you get their MIDI foot switch. There is a button on the SYN-2 that you can press and it'll cycle through the channels, but it does it in a linear fashion. And so if you want to quickly skip between channels, you're gonna want to get the foot switch. Now, for the big question and the reason why you're all here is, how does it actually sound? Well, let's find out. I'm gonna play you a couple audio demos. The first one is gonna be the Morgan AC module, and then you'll hear the Soldano SLO. Let's do it. Those audio demos were snippets from longer audio demos. If you're interested, I'll put the links in the description below. They're a little boring. I mean, I pretty much just play the same thing over and over, but each time I do it, I just increase the gain a little bit. And so you can hear how each of these modules sound at different gain stages. And I was really impressed. I think they hold up well throughout the entire gain sequence. They always sounded really natural and really crisp. So I think for anyone who's looking for real tube tone in a format that's compact, portable, simple to hook up, but also has a variety of routing options, this could be a really good way to go. I gotta thank my buddy Alex for lending me his gear so I could review it. I borrowed it for way longer than I should have, but I'm really appreciative of that. He plays in a band called Let the Wolves Speak. So if you're into the heavy stuff, be sure to give them a listen. Okay guys, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.